Hello everybody. Today I am going to talk about a rather serious topic, which is self-worth. What inspired me to talk about this? Half a year ago, I made a video about heal your inner critics. 疗愈你内在的柯一鸣. A lot of people commented on my video. Some people share their inner thoughts about self-worth. In that video, I talk about there is an innate self-worth from all being in this universe, whether you are poor or rich, ugly or beautiful, whatever classes you're from, there is an innate worth. You are worthy, unconditionally worthy, without having this or that, without having any achievement. Even you live the rest of your life sitting on a sofa and eating potato chips, watching TV, you still have this innate worth. So in my eyes, there is no loser at all in this universe. Everything in this universe has an innate worth because you're oneness with the Creator. You're never separated and everything is one. So how could you become less than anything else? When people get really abused, their self-worth got damaged, I want them to remember that they have this innate self-worth that cannot be destroyed, cannot be taken away by other people. But there is still one comment underneath that video. The girl who left the comment said that she tried everything, but she still couldn't find a sense of self-worth. She couldn't find the innate worthiness that I described in the video. So I wanted to make a video to address this. I think that we as humans, we are born into imperfect families. On a bigger purpose, only when we are born into families that are not perfect or into an environment like Earth that is not perfect, the contracts we faced or the difficulties we have to face in our lives actually makes us desire something else. So that is why we as the extension of the universe can grow, can grow for the universe, can create another perspective. We create life experience out of our desire to experience something different because the thing we experienced is kind of unwanted, So in a bigger perspective, it's like this. So most of us are born into family that's imperfect, and the human consciousness is imperfect now. Most of the parents, they have no knowledge how to cultivate self-worth in their child, in their children. But nevertheless, when the baby was first born, most of the parents were in awe. They awe for the creation. They awe for the wonder of this creation. In most of the cases, when the baby first arrived, the parents view it as perfect. Why? Because this baby it's much like the universe itself. It has odd potentials. But I want to let you know that this potential hasn't gone away when you grow up. Even though you have not achieved anything, it's still within you. However, most parents fail to keep that in mind. They fail to recognize this innate potential or this worth cannot grow away even if their child achieved nothing. And they worry, they fear for us. That is why they give us conditional love. Because then they themselves, they don't know how to love themselves unconditionally. And we are living in an imperfect world that judge people by their achievements. That is why most people grow up without an innate sense of self-worth. A lot of people struggle from that, I too struggled. I am a person now with a very strong innate self-worth. I know my value. I'm not gonna let other bitches to mess around with me because I know my value, I know my worth. But you know what? I come from a very, very broken past. Let me share with you my story. Maybe you can get something out of my story. And you will start to respect yourself more. And you will notice the worth of lives. Let me tell you my story. I was born into a family of elite, or I can say Chinese elites. both of my parents are first class architects in China. So that is why I mentioned in my previous videos that although my family is not filthy rich, but my family members, they had success. And both my parents were top students when they were growing up. And I actually spent my life under my parents' shadow. I was raised by my grandparents. Actually, I was first raised by my mother's mom, which is my maternal grandma. I remember when I grow up, I always feel worthless. Why? Because my grandma will always compare me to my mother, who was a top student, and she was beautiful too. So my mother is kind of a role model, a perfect role model that I can never achieve. When I grow up, I always compare myself to her. That I felt like I was a failure because I could never be as good as a student like she was. No matter how hard I try, I was naturally not into mathematical stuff. Although I strive at literature, English, history, things like that, like more arty stuff, I always have a talent. I don't need to use any effort. I can achieve a really great mark. But when it comes to mathematics, physics, things like that, I always fail, I was born with this sense of failure that how could my parents, who were so smart in their academics, give birth to me, who is worthless? So that is how I grew up. I grew up in a very emotionally neglecting family. My parents was too busy. They gave me zero emotional support whenever I went through something difficult. They could not relate to the difficulties I faced. So at a younger age, I was such a broken person. I felt there is no innate worth of myself. I cannot feel my value, my place on earth. In high school, I was really suicidal actually. I wasn't open about that. I can talk about it more confidently. I was a very suicidal person in high school. I lived in 28th floor, and when I was dealing with all the stress from high school, I felt really stressed, and I also broke up with my first love during high school. And at that time, I became super suicidal. I was so convinced that I am such an unlovable person, and I have no worth at all. My parents also see no worth from me because I couldn't perform as good as they do. So I actually thought about suicide, but I never actually go too deep into that. So I couldn't say that I am extremely suicidal. I was a little bit suicidal because I thought that wouldn't it be easier for me to just step out of the window of my 28th floor flat? If I just jump out, everything would be over. Yeah, that was the darkest part of my life. And I'm sharing this with you. But eventually, after nights of pushing and no sleeping, I was able to achieve a high enough mark that granted me to a university. My first job was a contact lens model for a colorful contact lens. And since then, I discovered actually I am kind of pretty, When I was younger, I thought that, okay, perhaps this is my worth. So this was the first time I project my worth onto my physical appearance. And I discovered, okay, maybe my eyes were pretty. I'm actually prettier than other guys, I thought. I made a mistake. I'd mistaken my self-worth as something superficial, But it was already a vibrational jump. Then feeling completely worthless, So during that time, I focused so much on my appearance. I always had to buy clothes that I felt fashionable. I also wear makeup during that time. I dated a lot of people who are attracted to me. And you know what? From their lust for me, much older people, from their lust for me, I gained this sense of power. I felt that I was worthy of love because I was pretty. I enjoyed seducing them because I found that, okay, this is my worth. But eventually I graduated from the university in Shanghai, and then I moved to Canada to pursue my further education. And during that time, I lost all the contact, and I was basically thrown into a new country with no friends. Asian guys were not popular. People were less interested in me than I was back in Shanghai. All of a sudden, I started to doubt my self-worth again. And at that time, I also felt that aging started catching up with me. I started seeing myself changing a little bit. Not as fresh flowers back in when I was 18, you know. I worried so much, and this fear started to consume me that I have no self-worth again. I got into spirituality because I wanted to preserve my youth, you know. It all coming from a place of ignorance towards my inner innate self-worth. And during that spiritual development, I achieved something. I found that I am actually more psychic than most people on earth. I am a natural clear sentience, and I can also see visions. I thought that, okay, I have superpowers. Okay, I am superior to other people again. Maybe my youth, my appearance is fading, but I now have another weapon. You know, I lived my life weaponizing my worth, you know, weaponizing things, mistaken things, outside stuff as my self-worth. It's all gonna bite you back again, because when the time you lose it, you become lost again. I was obsessed with my ability. I want to enhance it. I want to become a superhuman. So I practiced and practiced. Eventually, I get myself so open that I was in the frequency of psychic attack, because there were so much inner trauma that I hasn't healed. And when I was so psychically open to energies and entities, I got so attacked by them. That experience of psychic attacks made me realize that there is a lot of things that I need to heal within me to be a more authentic person, a more complete whole person. So I started my journey of healing, and I tried basically every modality that I can use to heal my inner traumas. That is why I can make videos for you, because I have so much experience. But then I went to another trap. It's a trap of healing, because I found that if I'm not healed, I'm still worthless. It's still another trap. The innate wound has never been seen. If you are feeling you are worthless, I want to let you know that I felt it the same, maybe even worse than you do. During that years of healing, I found that the more I heal, it seems like there is more to heal. Eventually, I went to a point of fasting, not eating food, meditate 5 to 6 hours per day, you know, doing nothing but spiritual work, but I still feel like crap. It was a living hell. Couldn't find my own self-worth. It was like a living hell. And eventually I collapsed. I was underweight. I'm 5'6", and I weighed like 90 pounds because I was not eating. I was pushing myself to death because I couldn't accept my own imperfection. Because in my mind there's this deep ingrained wound that I need to be perfect to find my worth. So upon the edge of dying, suddenly something profound within me shifted. There was a voice. The voice spoken to me that you don't have to be perfect. There is no reason to be perfect. It was a question that never occurred to me. It was a question that I never thought about asking myself. Why do I have to be perfect? Who made the rule that I have to be born perfect, raised perfect, become perfect? I remember I cried so much with that realization. And when I walked out of my dormitory, I saw white butterfly flying. Butterfly has always been my spiritual animal. I felt such huge relief. I literally feel energy falling off, and I start to eat again because I was starving myself to death. And I was in the cafeteria eating. I saw a woodpecker who just flew to the window pane, and our eyes locked with each other. I looked into its eyes and it looked into mine, and the focus actually maintained for like 10 seconds. It was amazing. All of a sudden I have another realization. Me and the bird, we are not separated. We are actually one. I was it and it was me. We were one. That was the moment I actually felt it something much more divine than all my psychic experience, all my interdimensional astral traveling that I had when I was developing my psychic ability. That was the moment I actually touched something divine, and then my mind stopped speaking to me the message that I am worthless. That profound experience shifted me forever. That is the moment I decided I am going to walk the path of integration. I'm going to integrate everything, every part of me. The part of me that felt worthless, like a failure, I put that back into me. The part of me that feels so angry at everything, I put it back into me. The part of me that felt the sense of deep powerlessness, I integrated too. I put them all back into me. Because I know these are all me, and I have to be a complete person. And me, as a complete person, is one with everything. Because I am one with everything, so there is something in me that cannot be diminished. There is a spark that is eternally worthy. So that is my story, how I discover my self-worth. And I will tell you, after that realization, what did I do? The mental techniques I used to talk to myself out of this perfectionist or this feeling that I'm worthless, I am still a perfectionist sometimes. I still feel like I don't provide enough. I still feel like I'm not good enough. On a daily basis, I'm not completely healed. I never said I was. Every day I struggle with it, but every day I survive. Because I know there is something within that cannot be taken away, that is unconditional, that's always going to be worthy. If you take it as a religion code or something, that I understand that I am a child of God, nothing can destroy it. And I will talk to myself. When I catch myself thinking negatively about me, I tell myself I'm loved. I tell myself that I am worthy. I have abilities that people don't have. And we are equally worthy. They have their excellencies, I have mine. When I feel really down, I talk to myself as a friend, we are people like us who are more naturally empathic. I find that we treat ourselves not as nearly as good when we treat other people. Imagine yourself as your best friend when your best friend feel really down and low. When they say that I am worthless, what would you tell them? You would try to talk to them into believing their worthiness. You would tell them their excellencies. You would tell them this, right? But why don't you do it to yourself? When I try to change my own belief, I understand that if I focus on the things that I don't like about myself, I'm never gonna feel good about myself. I heal the parts that's imperfect, by allowing them to be there and by loving them unconditionally. And I focus on the things that I do well. And each time I make a video, I praise myself, although I know that maybe the message I give out might not be perfect. I am not completely enlightened yet, perhaps. But every time I make a video, I praise myself. See, you made another one. Every time I sing a song, I praise myself. Wow, those high notes are great. How high you can sing. I know my singing voice isn't perfect either. But I really learned to switch my focus on things that I like about myself. And you can do this too. Because believe me, maybe you don't have my experience of this very spiritual experience of oneness, but believe me, when I see this, I was not the first person to see this. So many masters before me seeing this. Believe me, I beg you. Look into yourself. You're one with creation. You're one with the universe. Your worth is innate. It cannot be taken away. I love you. And you should love yourself.